Hi, welcome to In the Can with Carmella Cann. Today's topic is, should landlords pay the broker's fee? On February 29th of 2023, New York City Councilmember Chi introduced a bill that passes the fee, the broker's fee, back to the landlord. Whoever hires the broker pays the broker's fee. New York City is one of the most expensive places to live, and one of the issues currently going on is people paying high broker's fees. And I should know because I am also a broker. So I'm going to talk a little bit about this bill, and then I'm going to give you guys 3 tips on that I suggest for renters. The median rent in New York right now is $4,300 a month for a 1-bedroom. So we are talking about someone would need to move about $4,300 for first month's rent, $4,300 for security deposit, and then they're saddled with a 15% broker's fee. So we're looking at a $16,000 move when all is said and done for an average 1-bedroom in Manhattan. This bill would now make it where whoever hires the broker pays the bill. And the tenant did not hire the broker. Why should the landlord not pay anything and shift the costs onto the tenant? So right now, the way things are is the landlord can hire a broker, have the broker list the apartment for them, and show the apartment for free, and they don't pay anything, and it's the tenant that gets stuck paying the broker's fee. So this bill would now make it so whoever hires the broker pays the fee. The Real Estate Board of New York, I know, is not thrilled about this bill. So are many brokerage firms and the real estate industry.
That would, whoever hires a broker in New York, whether it's the landlord or the individual, would have to pay that fee. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so a couple months ago, I introduced a bill called the FAIR Act, which means Fairness in Apartment Rental Expenses Act. 9 times out of 10, when you're a tenant looking for a new apartment in the city, you'll find an apartment yourself on Street Easy through word of mouth of a friend. You're ready to move in, the rent's already crazy, and then you're hit with this broker fee. A broker that you never hired, a broker that you never met, a broker that your landlord hired to get you into their apartment. And these fees can range from 15 to 20% of your annual rent. So when you're moving into an apartment,
absolutely be paid for by the person who owns the building and is trying to get you.
It used to be like 1 month's rent, and now all of a sudden it went to like, I've never even seen 15%. I've seen 20% of what your year's rent would be. Who can afford that on top of like, the security and everything else you have to do?
Say you're paying $2,500 a month for a 1-bedroom, which is how much rents usually are in my community. You have to pay first month's rent, security deposit, and then that broker fee. You're paying $10,000 just to try to move into an apartment. This is not feasible for single parents who are trying to get out of unsafe living conditions. For those who are living paycheck to paycheck, it's putting another strain on our housing crisis as is. So this bill would require that whomever hires the broker pays the broker fee. And funny enough, of course, there's pushback against that from the Real Estate Board of New York. A lot of work has to come out on my part in explaining the bill to some of my colleagues. As soon as I introduced the bill, the Real Estate Board of New York put out all of these lies about what this bill would include, whether it was going to cap broker fees, which is not what it's trying to do, whether it's going to, ban brokers from ever existing. I myself hired a broker to find an apartment, but that doesn't mean someone who does not have the means should be forced to hire a broker to find themselves an apartment.
The first time this bill was proposed was before COVID, back in either 2019 or early 2020. Because of COVID, things kind of were on pause. It never went through. But now in 2023, someone did put the bill again. And many tenants, struggle with having to move because at this point, they're not only paying first month's rent, first month's security, and a high 15% broker's fee, that it's very costly on the average person. I also happen to be a licensed real estate broker in New York City, and I'm going to give you 3 tips for renters. Tip number 1. So I highly recommend to every renter to get renter's insurance. This is not something a lot of people think about, but extremely important when an emergency happens, such as a fire. I recently experienced a fire, and I cannot tell you how grateful I was that I had renter's insurance. For a low cost of like $30 a month, it made a world of difference in my life compared to other tenants that did not. So I extremely implore everyone to get it. It's not expensive and can really make a huge difference when you're in that type of situation. Tip number 2. I also recommend that if you have to pay a broker's fee because a broker has an exclusive apartment, that you should hire a broker because you're paying the fee no matter what. At that point, someone will be looking out for your interest in the transaction. And sometimes it's always better to have someone negotiate for you, so therefore you don't have to deal with hostility when it comes to the landlord. And looking out for things that you may want, like a fresh coat of paint before moving in, making sure appliances are up to date, just things that sometimes we don't consider. And since you're already paying the broker's fee, because most places are exclusives by brokers, you should definitely hire a broker to represent you. You're not spending more money because chances are you are going to be paying a 15% fee on average. Tip number 3. I also recommend, if you're having issues with hot water or heat during the winter or pest infestation, and you've tried to address it with your building management or the landlord and they have been unsuccessful, that you can also call 311 as a tool. I happen to be a licensed real estate broker, and I do work with clients in rentals in the borough of Manhattan and also do sales in the 5 boroughs. So please feel free to contact me via my website if you are in the market for a broker. Thank you for tuning in. Please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and also leave a comment, and I would like to hear your thoughts.